on this platform. We're going to be starting now. You're all welcome to another edition of the 24Karats Youth Leaders Meeting. So we are live now. Michael, can you lead us in opening prayer? Thank you.
Thank you for another opportunity to share your word, to learn at your feet. We thank you for everything that is going to be done here. Father, we ask for retentive memory, and we ask that everything we shall be learning we'll be able to use it to be able to live out our lives, not just as leaders on this platform, but in every sphere and in every area you've called us to spread your gospel and to be able to impact the world, that this will be able to find applicable in every aspect of our lives, both the person that is sharing and we that will be listening, that none of us will fall short of anything we've heard, that we'll be able to apply them at the right time. We bless you. We give you all the praise. Father, grant us the grace to stay attentive throughout all that will be said. And at the end, we will have a blessed and fulfilled time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So, Chalia, we are handing over to you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Auntie. Thank you very much for this privilege to give my review on Developing the Leader Within You by John C. Maxwell. So I will be reviewing chapter 5. That is the quickest way to gain leadership. And the subtopic and the whole discussion falling into this is problem solving. And as well, Auntie started a discussion of youth. So I'm going to use youth as a very good example to this. We found out that in our society right now, we don't like problems. We want everything to move on smooth according to the way we plan it. We want to say, okay, we want, just as how growing up, we feel I start my primary school, secondary school, I want to go to the university straight, finish 4 years, I should serve, finish 1 year, go for master's, finish 1 year, go for PhD, and then get a very good paying job. We try to avoid the problems. We try to avoid the waiting after secondary school to get admitted into the university. We avoid to wait after university to go a little slow down before going for service. We avoid that looking for a job or awaiting job to meet us before. We just want everything to move on very fast. And John C. Maxwell gave us this in leadership. And as leaders, we can't avoid problems. Everybody have problems. So now I'm going to give out the ways people do not perform the way they should when it comes to problem solving. So our first point, they do not know what they are supposed to do, which is very important. And they do not know how to do it. They do not know why they should. There are obstacles beyond their control. And those are points that we should look at in problem solving and ways people do not perform. And why are they not performing? Because we tend to see that this is meant to come up swift, and then it's not coming up. What do we do? There are obstacles that might look beyond our control. What do we do about it? They do not know why they should, of which those are areas that we have to look at. And problems, just as how in Nigerian phrase, they say problem no dey finish, problem does not finish. Problem is a continuous thing, but how do you control problem as a leader? And there are ways that people tend to turn up their problems too. Looking at how do I meet this person when I have a problem? Who are the people that will help me when I have a problem? Are those people really keen to be in my help or what? But then we have to see that okay, I was having a little issue during the weekend. I was like, who do I now turn my problem to? Who do I share this to? Who is more closer that I can share this to? And will now give me a very good word, and I'll feel very okay. And from a chart, the chart we have here, I'm giving, okay, John Simmons will give us a chart with about nine bars, and the family members have the highest charts, followed by friends, then the Bible, then we have other books, we have ministers or priests, we have tapes by leaders, we have boss and employment, then professional counselors, zero. Now, the first thing you look at when you have a problem is your family. You first of all want to share it with your family because they are the most closest. And for me, I love sharing my problems with my family because I feel more loved when I'm with them. And then next, your friends. I remember making a statement saying I don't have friends because I've had issues with friends and they betrayed me. But at the end of it all, and I think from the first meeting I had with the 24Karats, I got some encouragement by Auntie T, just a word from this conversation when it comes to friends. And it helped me to build up about 2 friends of which I now trust. And I can turn my problems to if I am stranded or if I'm having issues. And they tend to help me. And then the Bible. If you read the Bible, you feel at peace because it's God's word speaking to you. There are other books that you turn to. There are self-help books that you read, and then they become a problem. They become a problem-solved issues. Your problem tends to be solved at some points. Reading books, you turn to your priest, your ministers, and they pray for you. They speak with you. They encourage you, and then you feel okay. Then we have tapes by leaders. Those are speaking. Let's say, for example, I listen to messages from Joel Austin in the morning, and most especially my Monday mornings, because I feel blessed by it. I feel listening to it to solve my week's problem or to solve a problem during that period. And we have boss and employment. You tend to share some of your problems with your boss or your colleagues, and they tend to help you at that point in time. Or professional counselors, they tend to have the lowest. I was discussing this and I was saying practically all the therapists in Nigeria are all having issues. So who do you turn your problems to? But then the most highest thing is the family. So we have to look into that. So the next slide, we are talking about we all have problems. And sometimes our problems overwhelm us and we see it on and on as we move on. Looking at some look backs in our lives, we tend to find problems accumulating and then we move to the very best. We should remember the word of Paul Harvey, who said that in times like this, it is always helpful to remember that there have always been times like this. It's not possible you jump, just as an example I gave from your primary school to secondary school. It is not possible you jump through all of this. Remember, there are always problems. We all have problems. It's not possible for you not to have problems. There is a law, I think it's Ed Hot's law. I will still make a research on that, where he said a problem can't be solved at a time. Now, this guy didn't have money and he decided to sell a piece of art of his and he got cash to prepare for his daughter's wedding. And so in getting that money, he first of all, the first thing to do should be his wedding he's preparing for. He went to get himself a clothes. After getting that, he came back. He was like, no, I need a shoe. After that, he came out like, no, this can't go. I need a hat. So you see, problems don't finish. When he came back again, he was like, no, I need a center table because this place is not looking fine. And these are things that keep accumulating. His problem can't finish. No matter how he buys the whole wall, it can't finish. Take a look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk keeps inventing new things. From Twitter, he did a lot of new things around Twitter. His problem hasn't finished now. He said he wants to produce Tesla cars. That one has not finished. Now he said he wants to do another thing. His problems haven't finished. So we all have problems and we should look for how we should manage the problems. There are easy ways to managing problems and we should not give it a room that, well, everybody, it's not everybody that have a problem. So why do I have to do this? Everybody have problem around them, and problems gives meaning to life. People need to change their perspectives, not their problems. This is one word that shook me when I was reading this book. people need to change their perspectives, not their problems. You have to change your mindset. I finished reading a book, Mind Management, Not Time Management. And I found out that it's not time that consumes whatever we want to achieve, is rather our mind. Once you change your perspective to what you're supposed to do, you tend to see that I have finally moved on to that point that I was shifted from. So you should not look at your problems, but you should look at your perspectives, and having that perspective will change your mind towards problems, because everybody have problems, and that obstacles are condition of success. We all have a tendency all of our lives to want to get rid of problems and responsibilities, which is no. Problems gives meaning to life. Without a problem, you will not enjoy your life growth or your life value. And that is one thing that we tend to miss in this life. We should all go through those problems, and we should all pass through those problems. Then we have many outstanding people have overcome problems in their lives. Now, this is a point to note. Policies are many, principles are few. Policies will change, principles never do. Principles are set, they are what is there. And policies, there are a lot of policies that are set up. The government have set up policies that we should follow. Buhari's administration have set up policies and says this is what we should do, but principles are already there. For example, the constitution is already set for us that this is what we should follow. We should not go against it. So that is how problems tend to stay. And it depends on what we think in our mind to achieve it, whether we want to look in it or we don't want to look in it. But those are facts, and facts that remains very the same and very simple. Then a problem is something I can do something about. Wow. This is coming from where we see problem is something that we have that is part of our life. And again, here is saying a problem is something I can do something about. Yes, you can do something about it. A Fact of Life by Fred Smith says, if I can't do something about a problem, it's not my problem. And that is something I'm like, okay, if I can't do something about a problem, then it's not my problem. Because every problem has solution. In one way or the other, you will find a problem and you will solve it, and you will move to the next problem and you will solve it. That is a point to note, or that is something that we all have been made to face as humans. So a test of a leader is the ability to recognize a problem before it becomes an emergency. Now, let me give these points coming from a leader's perspective. Great leaders always recognize problems in the following sequence. Now, they have a way at which they have seen the problems coming, and how do we go about it? Now, the first point to note is that they sense it before they see it. That is intuition. They know that this is coming. They know that something is about to happen. Okay, now creating a car, and then you first of all think, if I own this car, after creating everything, if I own this car, what is the first thing is going to sound? But what if it does not sound? They know that there are two things in it, and their intuition has shown them that you have to find an alternative to this if it does not work. Then the second problem is they begin looking for it and asking questions. That is curiosity. And that is something that we all should build as leaders when it comes to problem solving. We should not just keep quiet about it. Now, from this point, I will pick out something that I learned from my boss and I take it to wherever I want to go or whatever I do. Now, if he gives you a task to do, you should not come back and tell him, I did not do it or I wasn't able to do it. You find solution to it, because he feels every problem or every task have solution. If you don't have solution to it, then if you're coming back to tell him I didn't find solution to this problem, you should come back with a bit of solution to that particular problem. And that is where curiosity to want to learn, or curiosity to want to find the next progress, comes in place. And then they gather data, that is processing. You gather all your information. If this is asked or if this comes up, how do I do this? Now, this is data gathering that you've done. And now they share their feelings and findings to a few trusted colleagues. That is communicating. And that leaders behave, or that is how leaders view leadership. You first of all share the feelings. Okay, now I've done this. What do you think about this research? Or what do you think about these findings that I've done? Do you think is okay, or do you think this is it? And that is communication. At the end of it, you know that yes, you've arrived at something, because you have different people having different perspectives from what the problem can be. And then they define the problem. That is writing. You write it down, you keep it, and you find solution to each problem brought out or each problem written down. And then they check their resources. That is evaluating. How do we know that this is this, or how did we arrive at this? And then the last point, they make a decision. That is leading. You've, after all the problem, all the writing down and everything that was brought out, what is the next thing? What next can I do? And that is where you find solution to whatever that can be at that point in time. And that is what leaders point and take notes in bringing problem solving when it comes to leadership. And then the next point is, you can judge leaders by the size of the problem they tackle. Well, our focus as a leader should be to build big people. Big people will handle big issues effectively. And this is something that is very key to whatever life value we have to take. As leaders, we should be able to build big people. Because if you have good people around you, you'll be able to handle issues effectively. And well, it's also good to groom people, but when it comes to leadership, it's good you have people with good mindsets, that when your problems are being sorted out, you people know how you shift all the issues around to get the best solution. That is leadership. And then the next point says, solve tax problems quickly. People's problem will take longer because problem does to finish. So solving problems may be the immediate agenda, but that should never be where we should spend most of our time. Suggestion for producing problem solvers: make a time commitment to people. Never solve a problem for a person, solve it with that person. And I remember working with a few colleagues of mine. I tried to groom them to my position because I felt it's better I have an assistant. If I'm not around, they can be able to handle most issues or anything in the office. So I try to train most people. And then from my point of leadership, I didn't make use of making a time to commit to them. And I didn't make use of solving a problem, never solve a problem for a person, solve it with a person. I rather looked at, okay, this person came to work. I just was like, okay, this is what you do, this is this and that, this is what we do in the office, and I want you to do this by the end of this period. And I just give out the rules. I never get committed to seeing whether this person is doing this or not. And at the end of it, I'm like, why are you not smart enough to do this? This is not meant to be hard. This is very easy. And I tend to have issues with them. And then I just give a task without following up with them. And at the end of it, I do the task myself, of which was bad leadership. But at some point in time, I got another colleague, because all those ones later on eventually got sacked because they were not smart enough to handle it. And I left most of the tasks to them and they could not handle. So the next two colleagues that I had, I was able to use this particular part of leadership in solving problems. Now, when a problem is brought out, I first of all give them a very good introduction, like this is what we do. So if this comes up, this is what should be done. And at the end of it, I don't do the tasks alone. I decided to leave the job to them. They now find a solution. If they are lost, I'm like, okay, I think this can go, but I'm not giving them the same solution to the problem, so that we can all tackle the problem together. And it's a very good growth. I'm very proud of this part of leadership I did. And the next person that is taking over from me has gotten it all, because we tried to solve a problem together. And now problem solving on her own end when it comes to office work is not difficult. She knows her way around it and how she can come out of the situation. Then the next slide says the right attitude, the right action plan. Attitude is very important for potential leaders. Very, very important. Positive thinking does not always change our circumstances, but will always change us. That is very true, because problem doesn't finish. And then when we are able to think right about tough situations, then our journey through life becomes better. Life is not problem free. It is not possible you have a problem free life. If you live your life without problems, you need to check your life. Are you sure that this life is really balanced for you? Because I try to argue the point where they say this life is not balanced, and I'm always like, no, this life is balanced. It's us that don't know how to balance it. And I look at it like at the end of it, I don't like arguing the point again. Though sometimes I can still argue. I'm like, it's you that don't want it to be balanced. Because one, a problem is being brought out. How do you think you can solve the problem? How do you think issues can move around, or what do you think can be a solution to that particular issue? But as leaders, we have to know that issues come up, and we have to find solutions to it. We have to solve those issues no matter what. And then the next is to identify the problem. Our job is to identify the problem, because there are real problems. Okay, slide this. Yes, and to the next slide, please. Okay, identify the problem. Our job is to identify the real problem, and then we can profess solutions. If you bring out your problems, you will find the solution, because it's not possible your problem will not have solution. That is one thing I've made to learn in this life, and it's helping me in any organization I work with at every point. And they'll be like, this looks difficult. I'm like, it's not possible you don't find solution to this, because this is a problem, and every problem has solution. So as a leader, you don't just have to live it that way, but you have to profess solution to everything that you do, which is very, very important in our everyday life. Because you can't sit and you're like, you don't have money in your account, and you sit and wait for money to come and meet you. You will wait there for the problem to solve itself. Because honestly, the money won't come and meet you sitting down there, but you have to go follow and find problems, whatever issues it might look like. And then the problem solving charts gives us ways of solving problem. If you check through the book, you see a lot of charts. It wasn't pointed out, but there were a lot of charts that were brought out. You first of all make the first dot. Okay, now let me use a 9 dots box as an example when it comes to problem solving charts. You first of all make first 3 dots. You make a progress of making the next line dots and the last line dots. That is having a 3-line dotted circle or box form. And so you first of all, trace from the first, second, and at the end of it, you get a full line box problem solved. But you don't have to, if you first of all make the first 3 and you leave it like that, then sorry for you, you might eventually fail to finish the rest of it. But if you work out for all of that, you will fall at the end of solving all your problems in one particular order. But and again, you don't have to rush all your problems because you want to solve a problem at the same time, because as you will still come back to the same problem. That is where most of us miss some things. So we prioritize the problem. Richard Somers says never to try to solve all the problems all at once. Make them line up for you one by one. Approach these problems not with a view of finding what you hope for, but get the truth and the reality that must be gripped with. If you do all the problems all at once, then you still come back to that same. You still come back to the same problem. But you come back worse to it than you thought of. So we have to define the problem. Now we have to get the difference between solving problem and making a decision. A decision is a choice you make between 2 or more alternatives. Why a problem is meant to be solved. Now, a decision is, sometimes they say a decision is something you make for a lifetime. For example, marriage. You decide to get married to this person. You've made up your mind. You've gotten married to this person, and if you think there are problems attached to it, well, you can solve the problem, but you should know that you're making a decision in that problem. And so the 4 steps process is that you first of all ask the right question. You second of all talk to the right people. You third of all get the hard facts, and you fourth of all get involved in the process. With following those steps, you've defined problems. And I don't think you still go back to the same problem you started with. Even if you go back to the problem, you know that I'll use these four steps and I'm out of it. Even if the next one comes, you use the four steps again and you're out of it. Those are the steps of solving problems. And then you feel very fulfilled that you've done something. And selecting the kind of people to get involved in your process is also something very important. You don't have to just work with solving your problems alone, of which I spoke earlier, but you solve it together with somebody. And please, the next slide. Select people to help you in the problem-solving process. Before inviting people to attend the problem-solving meeting, ask this question: is it a real problem? Is it urgent? Is the true nature of the problem known? Is it specific? If people talk about everything, they will eventually talk about nothing. Has the group most competent to discuss the problem being invited? And is it each participant concerned about solving the issue? Those are things that we tend to look at in problem solving. And if we look at those things in problem solving, you arrive at a very good answer. Because one, you get to know the real problem. You first of all know, is it urgent or not? Because you cannot rush the problem at that minute. And is it a true known problem that is known by everyone? Because I don't think there is an invented problem coming from anywhere. It's not possible. It's a problem that everybody knows that we can solve. And then, is it specific? Because people that talk too much, I don't like solving problem with people that talk too much or people that make too much noise, because eventually we'll come at nothing. The last event that I had just of recent, I had this planning with just practically 6 people, and it came out a huge success because one, we did I love the fact that we just picked just how many people, let's solve this, and we're able to bring out our problem. We were able to tackle most of the situation, and we're not having lousy. In fact, at the end of it, the lousy people we had, we took them out so that we can be able to know the aim of what we're doing, and we're able to get to a point whereby we could do everything. And after that, after everything was planned, every problem was solved, every group, everyone had discussed everything. We're now able to bring up different people. Then the talkative people come in. So far, we are done solving all the problem. They can now assist at every point in time, and that was what happened. List all the possible causes of the problem by asking what caused the problem and how the problem can be avoided in the next future. If you don't look for solutions to how it can be avoided in the next future, then you're still going to fall back at the same problem, just like rushing a problem to finish getting solution and then falling back at it. That is something we need to be very careful about. And then, and Steve, please, next slide. Okay. Collect problem solving solution. List as many solutions to a problem as possible. The more the better. A leader without a backup solution for a primary answer will soon be in trouble. If you don't have a backup plan, then there will be serious problem. If you're listing out a problem or you're listing out a solution, you should try your very possible best to list out what a plan B can be. No matter how you think a plan A is always possible, always bring out the plan B, because having a plan B is very important. At least even if your plan A is successful, you still have a plan B to use in the future as a future plan A. And then as you're planning the next one, you know that you're planning a plan B. So you already know that any problem that comes in, you have solutions to it at every junction, at every point in time. And then prioritize and select the best solution. Weigh all the possible solutions before deciding. The following question should always be asked by a leader: which solution has the greatest potential to be right? Which solution is in the best interest of the organization? Which solution has momentum and timing on its side? Which solution has the greatest chance of success? This is just like having a plan A, B, C, D. And having all those plan A, B, C, D, you now later on pick, let's say, the best 2 plans, and you move on with it. And you know that you've been able to pick out the best solutions to whatever issue or situation. it might come your way. And then implement the solution, evaluate the solution. You can ask these questions to evaluate the response. Point 1, were we able to identify the root cause of the problem? If you haven't been able to, then you need to go back to solving the problem. Did we make the right decision? If the right decision is not made, then nothing was done. Has the problem been resolved? If it hasn't been resolved, then what happened to your plan B? Have the key people accepted the solution? Then you need to recheck all of those things again. Did I help people to develop problem-solving skills to manage conflict in the future? Now, this is one thing as a leader you need to profess, because if you have solving problem skills to management conflicts, then in the future you won't have any issue, which is very important, because in every arrangement you come up with problem solving, you come up with conflict. So how do you solve all this conflict situation in the future? These are things that as a leader we need to point out, we need to look into. And then the next point, set up principles or policies to keep problems from reoccurring. Whereas policies are set up for a particular function in a specific area, principles are guidelines for everyone and are more general. Now, those principles must work effectively this way. To teach principles effectively, you must first of all model them. You must second of all relate them by answering the questions. And then you must applaud when I see the principle being applied in their lives. And I remember working with a mentor, or let's say a leader, and he doesn't applaud from the beginning of the job or the task. In fact, he feels everyone should be perfect, because when he means everyone should be perfect was that we first of all started working this together, and then in working this, we've had issues at that point in time, and then we brought out our plan A and plan B. So during the process of professing everything, when your plan A worked, what happened to your plan B? Did you make use of it or not? If you made use of it, that is very good. And you'll find out that everything will now become a very good success. So every problem coming, you have solution to it. And that is when you will come back and be like, you guys did very well. In fact, from the last event, I was the pointed, noted one. They said, if anything happens to this event, we are holding you responsible. And I made sure that all our plan A, B, C, D, E, every plans that we had our alternative should be standby, because if anything happens, we need to move on to this next plan. And that was what happened. And as a leader, he was able to be like, you guys did the best, you guys did well. And that is going to push us to the next plan. If any other problem comes again, we know how to move around with it. And then some approaches you should find effectively. Never allow others to think you always have the best answer. This will only make them dependent on you. Ask questions. Help people to think through the entire process of their problem. Become a coach, not a king. Let me first of all explain these 3 points. If you allow in a team, if you allow one person to solve all of this, or if you're the only one solving all of this, then that means there's no problem that is solved. Because, for example, if you're not around, then that means the whole thing will keep having problems on and on and on, and no solution will be made. Just as how I said, if I don't have a second person, if I'm not around to handle the office, then that means every problem that come in will just be falling into the trap of every problem, because there is nobody to handle it. So we should all try and have other people have a say in problem solving, and always ask questions. Make people know the entire process. Don't just leave it on your own end alone, or don't just leave it on someone's end alone. As a leader, everyone should know the process of it. That is leadership. And then become a coach, not a king. Because if you stand as a king, people will praise you. People always bring the problem to you because they feel you know it all, because they feel if it's not you, if you're not the one on that seat, or if you're not the one handling that process, then we have the problem still stagnant or still there. And then the next point, list their solution on paper and have them work on it, so that the next time it happens, they know the next thing to do. Then ask them to decide on the best solution to their problems. What do you think can be the solution to this particular problem? Do you think it can solve any reoccurring issues or reoccurring problems that comes up again? And then develop a game plan. that is like alternatives in anything, whether we should work on it, do we look into it, do we not, what will happen next, what will not happen next. And then ask them to take ownership and responsibility for the game plan. Because with that, you know that, okay, if I still have this in future purpose, I know how to go about it. Because problem doesn't finish. even in the same thing that you think you have all the alternative, you will still get the problem. Or how do you tend to manage the problem not to be known and not to be seen? Is by following game plans, using all the policies and principles to everything that you think you move on with. And then you see that you have solution to all the problems, because every problem have solution. Any problem that does not have a solution, that means the problem is not yours. That is very important. In conclusion to all the reviews I've given, one important thing is that to every problem there is a solution. Take ownership of it. And if it's not yours, if the problem is not solving, it's not your problem. You have to find a problem that is suitable to whatever you take, because you can't take a big problem and you don't know how to solve it. To every problem there is a solution. Thank you very much for your time and giving out this review. I was able to use out my time very well. Thank you very much, Auntie.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I'm sure we all enjoyed this review and we're able to successfully come to the end without my network breaking everything. Thank you so much, Alia. Maybe we just hear from two people in 1 second. What is one thing you picked from today? 1 second. Everybody can just say something. Those of us in the inner group. And then those of us on YouTube, you can just write on the chat. What is one thing you picked from today's talk? So let's go. Mercy. We have Mercy, Meekness, and Michael.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Talia, thank you so much for the presentation and the summary. It was really nice. So what I picked out was the part where you talked about never solving a problem for somebody, solving it with the person. I'm sure many of us, including myself, are guilty of solving, trying to get things done for people instead of trying to teach them how to get it done. It comes to this talk of instead of giving me the bread, just instead of giving me bread, teach me how to bake the bread or something like that. So I would be conscious of not solving problem for people and teaching them how to solve their own problems themselves. And also applying to my own self, I wouldn't want people to solve my own problem, but teach me how to solve it. So yeah, that's what I picked out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercy. Okay, let's hear from Brian, since Meekness had some network issues. The rest of the comments will be coming from YouTube.
Okay. One of the things that I'll pick out from today's conference is the need for people. I know I'm very terrible at that. I know it affected us. Well, I would say the effect was very obvious during the last things boot camp. I didn't make sufficient plans in case what I had for the initial, for what I thought would work didn't work. I didn't plan for, okay, in case in case it didn't work, and it backfired on me a lot. And it's not just that. In most of my areas, I mostly focus on making sure I get the just that of the first one I have, like putting all my eggs in one basket. But in this case, I've learned that it's important to be able to also be able to plan for in case it is like, in case your first option fails, and also for future references. Actually, like Charlie mentioned, I can't really quote it verbatim, but I know she mentioned like you could use your plan B for like in case the situation like that arises in a future time. So it's good. So your plan B could, I don't know if it means it come as your plan A, but I just got the importance of having a plan B as a leader in any project you have. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you very I sincerely apologize. My network has been acting somehow today. So I think we could just wrap up. Nirat, if you can wrap up with closing prayer.
Yes, ma. Good evening,
You
everybody.
can wrap
See you,
up with
ma.
closing prayer so we can stop streaming. Thank
Okay,
you.
ma. In Jesus' name, our Heavenly Father and God, we say thank you for this program. Thanks for everyone who is in the group. Thanks for your love, your guidance, and your protection, Lord. We say thank you, Lord, for things we've learned from this church meeting. We pray and ask you, Lord, that you put us into our hearts, Lord, in Jesus' name. Holy Spirit, we
Amen.
ask you, God, that would be the best that we can be. And Lord, with your help, oh God, we will not just be the hearers of the word, but also the doers of the word too. We thank you, Lord, for answered prayers, and then for further meetings which are ahead, pray that would also be partakers of it too in Jesus' name. And we have thanked you,
Amen.
Lord, we ask that you continue to create solutions to every little problems that we may have. We pray thanksgiving in Jesus' mighty name. We have prayed.